I declare you both as married couple, but do anyone have any objection? Please raise your hand. The priest asked, looking around, and no one raised their hand. Taehyung wanted to raise his hand, but he stopped himself, clenching his fist, digging his nail into his skin. I object. Everyone looked at the entrance door. They saw a handsome man standing at the entrance. Hobby Oppa, you mumbled, looking at him, who was smiling at you. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm late because my flight got delayed, Hobie said, walking on the aisle. So, the thing is, I don't want this marriage to happen, as well as YN also don't want this marriage. Hobie smiled, looking at you, who was looking back at him with wide eyes. Hobie walked back to his room after attending his cousin's sister's engagement. There he heard someone's cry. Aunt Lee, Hobie thought, going inside Mrs. Lee's room. There he saw your mom crying silently. He quickly sat beside Mrs. Lee on the bed holding her hands. Why are you crying, Aunt Lee? What happened? Hobie asked, and Mrs. Lee cried more, hugging Hosok. I'm so bad, I'm so selfish. That's why God gave me this punishment, Mrs. Lee said, wiping her tears with her hands. Aunt Lee, please calm down, Hosok said, taking out handkerchief from his pocket, giving it to Mrs. Lee. I did a big mistake today. I saw her in the engagement ceremony. She looked so sad. She didn't wanted this engagement, Hosok. She agreed to marry Bogum because of me. My baby is not happy with this marriage. I'm such a bad mother. Mrs. Lee cried more, clutching Hosok's coat. Don't cry, Aunt Lee. We will figure out something, Hosok said, sighing sadly. Hosok, can you please make a video of me? Mrs. Lee said, and Hosok nodded his head, taking out his mobile phone. Hey baby, I won't be there when you turn 18. I guess your mama did a great mistake, baby. Please forgive me if you can, love. You know, Ryan, my last wish is you should marry the person you love, baby. I love you, Ryan. I love you so much. I hope you forgive me. Your mama loves you so much. Now, you were crying mess after watching the video. Your mom's last message was you can marry anyone you love. Thank you, Mom. Hosok made you stand up on your feet. He wiped your tears. Hey, why are you crying, home? Aunt Lee must be watching you from heaven and she definitely won't like when you cry. Hosok said, and you stopped crying, nodding your head. So answer honestly. Don't fear anyone, okay? It is your life. You should decide who you wanna marry, okay? Hosok said, and you nodded your head. So you wanna marry Bogum? Hosok asked, and you looked at your father who was glaring at you, mouthing to say yes, but you shook your head, saying, No, I don't want to marry Bogum. You said, making the guest gasp. Do you love someone? Hosok asked, and you said yes. Is he here with us? Hosok asked, and you nodded your head. Then why are you standing here? Go and marry him, you pabo. Hosok said, hitting your head playfully, and you giggled, getting down from the stage and running towards Taehyung. Don't you dare, Ryan, he growled angrily. Hobie looked at someone and signaled something. The person nodded and whispered something in Bluetooth. In a blink of an eye, hall filled with guards holding guns in their hands. Some of the guards grabbed your dad and Bogum. They both are struggling. Leave me, you bastard, he said, struggling. Ryan, you go and marry love of your life. Let me see who will stop you, he said, glaring at your dad playing with his gun. By the way, Hobie is a mafia boss who can do anything for his little cousin sister. You smiled at Hobie and ran towards Taehyung. You hugged Taehyung, who was looking hella confused, and the guest gasped in shock after watching you hugging a waiter. You held Taehyung's hand and said, Will you marry me, Taehyung? You asked with a glint of happiness in your eyes, and Taehyung quickly nodded his head, saying yes. You giggled, grabbing Taehyung's hand, running towards the priest. You went to Bogum and removed his blazer, putting it on Taehyung. Shall we start? You and Taehyung nodded vigorously, being excited. Priest smiled and recited the vows. Levian, do you take Kim Taehyung as your lawful husband? I, Levian, take Kim Taehyung as my lawful husband to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us apart. You said, looking into Taehyung's teary doe eyes, making the guest coo at their cuteness. I, Kim Taehyung, take Lee Wyan as my lawful wife to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. Taehyung said, the wedding vows making you smile in content. I pronounce you both as husband and wife. Now you both may kiss. The priest said, and you smiled, pulling Taehyung into a loving kiss. You both could feel each other's tear on your lips while kissing. You both blushed, pulling yourselves away from each other. Bugum was standing there watching you and Taehyung, his face twisted in anger. You smiled, pulling your diamond ring out of your finger, which was gifted by your mother, sliding it on Taehyung's finger. Love, you don't have to. Taehyung laughed softly as you kept your finger on his lips. Shh, I love you, hubby, you whispered, hugging your now husband. Taehyung blushed hardly at your words and hugged you back, being shy. Love you too, baby, Taehyung said when they finally broke apart. They stood there for a moment just looking at each other. You were both so happy and you both couldn't wait to start a new life together. Well, congratulations, both of you, he said, hugging you and Taehyung. Thank you, Oppa, you whispered. Thanks, Young. I owe you a lot. Because of you, she is mine now, he said, hugging Hobby. Oh, come on, don't say thank you. I can do anything for my little sister, he said, patting your head lovingly. He turned to the guest and said, come on, everyone, let's enjoy the wedding. I want my little princess wedding more memorable. And Ryan, he turned to you. Don't be afraid. Let me see who'll bother my princess and my brother-in-law, he said, glaring at your dad and Bogum. You both chuckled, nodding your heads. Taehyung smiled as he watched you laughing and talking with your friends at the after party. You looked so adorable, especially with your cute smile. Taehyung couldn't believe that you was his wife now. It was a dream come true. He looked down at the ring on his finger and smiled again. It was a constant reminder of your love and commitment to each other. You looked at Taehyung in awe as you saw your husband kneeling down in front of you. He was dressed in a handsome tuxedo and he had a charming smile on his face. May I have the honor to dance with you, gorgeous? Taehyung asked. You giggled and nodded your head. You took Taehyung's hand and stood up. You both went towards the dance floor. You smiled, keeping your hand on Taehyung's shoulder, and Taehyung rested his hand on his wife's waist. You both continued to dance on the slow romantic music. I didn't know that you can dance, Mr. Hubby. You smiled but yelped when Taehyung swirled you around. You didn't know many things about me, Mrs. Kim. Taehyung said, resting his chin on your shoulder, dancing slowly. Well, I would love to find everything about you, hubby, you said, turning back, circling your arms around Taehyung's neck. We both have our entire lives to know about each other, beautiful. Taehyung smiled, showing his boxy smile. Yep, we will be together forever, you said, looking at his plumpy lips. The party got over and the newly wedded couple headed towards the room. Taehyung stopped when he saw a restroom in the corridor. Baby, you go to the room. I will be back in few minutes, Taehyung said, and you nodded your head, saying, come back fast, hubby, I'm waiting. You winked at him playfully and left. He chuckled and went inside the restroom. You blushed beetroot red after seeing your bedroom. It was decorated with rose flowers and candles. You walked over to the bed and ran your finger over the soft rose petal. You took a deep breath and inhaled the sweet scent of roses. It was intoxicating. Taehyung came out of the washroom after drying his hands, but he grunted when Mr. Lee punched him on his stomach. Taehyung fell on the ground, clutching his stomach in pain. He looked up and at Mr. Lee, who was standing in front of him, breathing heavily. Congratulations, you finally got successful in trapping my daughter into your fake love. I didn't trap your daughter, Taehyung said in his weak voice. Weak. I love her. You are lying, Mr. Lee said. You only want her for her money. Mr. Lee raised his foot to kick Taehyung and he hit hard on his face. Taehyung was just getting beaten by Mr. Lee. He didn't dare to raise his hand because he respects his elders a lot. You widened your eyes when you heard commotion from outside, so you ran out of your room. There you saw your father hitting Taehyung and Taehyung was covering himself. Dad, you screamed, covering Taehyung behind you. Stop hitting my husband, for God's sake, you said, pushing Taehyung's face on your chest, covering him more. This guy married you for money. I'm gonna, Mr. Lee screamed, trying to hit Taehyung. Over my dead body, you said, glaring your father, and Mr. Lee retracted his hand back. Taehyung's love me, not my money. You said, you are being naive, Ryan. He said, this man is only using you. He don't love you. He loves me and I love him too. Mr. Lee shook his head. You are making a big mistake. You are going to regret this. Everyone is not selfish like you, Dad. And okay, if that's what you want, I am leaving this house and money. I am going with them, you said, making Mr. Lee shocked. Tay, will you take me with you? You smiled, looking into Taehyung's two eyes. Gladly, baby, Taehyung said, and you smiled, getting up with Taehyung. You went towards your room, holding Taehyung's hand. You made him sit on the bed and you sat on Taehyung's lap. You checked your hubby's face to check whether he is injured or not. You sighed in relief because Taehyung's face only had some minor scratches. You applied gel ointment on his scratch carefully, making Taehyung smile in content. He pulled you closer and buried his face on your neck, leaving some wet kisses. I love you more. You giggle while caressing his soft brown hairs. The newly married couple stood in front of the helper quarters holding hands. You had taken your mother's photo frame and you both had left the Lee mansion together. Mrs. Kim opened the door glaring at Taehyung. You didn't bother to tell me that Wine loves you and you love her too, Mrs. Kim said, hitting Taehyung's back playfully. Ah, mom, please stop. Even I didn't know that Wine just told me yesterday that she loves me. Taehyung went trying to dodge his mom's head. You laughed, closing your mouth. Mrs. Kim looked at you with a big smile. Thank you for marrying this coconut head. You are best for him. My blessings are always with both of you. Mrs. Kim said, and you smiled, hugging Mrs. Kim, getting motherly warmth. Mrs. Kim took out a diamond chain from her bag. Well, I bought this for Taehyung's future partner. Will you accept the first gift from your mother-in-law? Mrs. Kim said, and you grinned, nodding your head enthusiastically. Mrs. Kim made you wear the diamond chain. You guys sleep here, I will sleep in the garden, Mrs. Kim said, going out. Taehyung was about to stop her. No, mom, what if it rains at night? Please sleep with us, you said, and Taehyung looked at you with fond eyes. Mrs. Kim's idea was to divide the room into two parts with a big screen in the middle. This was a creative way to create some privacy for the newlyweds while still allowing them to be in the same room. It also made the room look more spacious and inviting. The newlyweds, you and Taehyung, giggled at Mrs. Kim's idea. Mrs. Kim turned off the lights, drifting off to sleep within few seconds. Taehyung removed his blazer while laying down and you shifted uncomfortably beside him. Tay, this dress is irritating me. Please give me your clothes, hubby. You pouted cutely. Taehyung smiled, handing you his cotton shirt and sweatpants. You quickly changed into Taehyung's clothes, snuggling up to your husband. You both lay on the floor together in the comfort of your new home, enjoying each other's company. You felt safe and loved in Taehyung's arm, and Taehyung was happy to have you by his side. I love you, Tay. You said, I love you too, baby. Taehyung replied. You drifted off to sleep with big smile on both of your faces. Next morning, you got up from your sleep yawning cutely. You noticed that Mrs. Kim already went to work. You opened the door, but you noticed an envelope laying on the floor. From Kim Tae-woon, Seoul, South Korea, to Kim Taehyung, Daegu. You read the letter confusedly. You closed the door and went to Taehyung, who was sleeping peacefully. You sat beside him and said, Tae Bear, you got an envelope. Taehyung yawned and opened his eyes. He rubbed his sleepy eyes and then tore open the envelope. He began to read it, his half-hooded eyes scanning the lines. Suddenly, Taehyung's eyes widened. He grinned and stood up, followed by you. You looked at him confusedly, but you gasped when he picked you up and swung you around. Yeah, what's wrong? Put me down, Tay. He giggled and hugged his wife tightly. I'm so happy, love. So happy. But what's wrong? Taehyung grinned happily. Now our bad days end, Vian. From now on, I'll provide you all the luxuries. He smiled. Luxury? Bad days? What are you saying, Tay? Will you say it clearly? I can't understand. He grabbed your hand before saying, Baby, get ready. We are moving to Crestmont Villa tomorrow.